Jamaica, a message arrives for you today, carried not across the sea, but on the very wind that connects our shared spirit. My brothers and sisters, I speak to you from the heart of Burkina Faso. This earth remembers the struggle for freedom, a fight that lives in your blood as well. We were separated by history's cruel hand, yet our hearts beat to the same ancestral drum. You were taken to a foreign shore, forced to adopt a foreign tongue, yet your soul, your very essence, remained unshakably African. In the resistance of the Maroons, in the anthems of reggae, I hear the undeniable echo of a homeland you have never forgotten. But I must speak a difficult truth now, one that may unsettle you. Jamaica, your flag flies high, but does your spirit soar with the same freedom? The colonial master who once ruled with violence now governs with policy. The empires that grew fat from the labor of your ancestors now return as financial partners, offering advice on how you should manage the house they once plundered. They define for you what progress looks like, what democracy should be, and which alliances are acceptable. Why? Because they are terrified of a Jamaica that thinks for itself. They fear a nation that trades directly with Africa, that educates its children with its own true history, not a version designed to flatter former oppressors. A leader who cannot refuse the West has already refused his own people. The financial aid they offer is not a gift, it is a gilded cage. I speak now to the young people of Jamaica, to the creators and the visionaries. Your destiny is not to seek survival in distant lands. It is to build a new reality right where your ancestors' dreams were interrupted. Do not let the world diminish your pride to a tourist attraction, your genius to a commodity, your culture to a simple logo. You are the guardians of a flame that has ignited revolutions before. Let that fire burn again, not with rage, but with boundless creativity. Africa sees you, and she does not watch as a spectator, but as a mother awaiting the return of her children, not in body, but in shared purpose. The hour has come to turn your gaze from the setting sun in the west and witness the dawn breaking in the east. There you will find your true reflection, your true kin. When I see Jamaica, I do not see a distant island. I see a piece of Africa, living and breathing across the ocean. You are not a footnote in history. You are the living continuation of a continent's courage. I speak to you not as a head of state, but as a brother who shares the same deep wounds and the same boundless hope. The world has worked to divide us, Africans here, Caribbean people there. But I ask you, who truly gains from this separation? The answer is the same forces that once drew lines through our lands and our souls. They label Africa as impoverished while they extract its diamonds and gold. They call Jamaica a small island while they drain its vitality through endless debt. Our true adversary has never been each other. Our adversary is the system that profits from our disunity. They dread the moment the children of Africa, whether in Kingston or Ouagadougou, stand as one and declare, enough. Your forebears did not vanish in the Atlantic. They were planted as seeds. From those seeds you grew, freedom fighters, artists, and voices whose power reached across the waters to touch the homeland. When your prophets sang of unity, it was not a mere lyric. It was a forecast of a future we must now construct. But this unity cannot be built on sentiment alone. It requires a foundation of shared action. Africa is rising today not because it was granted permission, but because it made a decision. We are throwing off the shackles of foreign control, rejecting military outposts, and taking back our resources. And as we do, we call to you, our family in the Caribbean. Join us in this work. Let us exchange ideas, not just products. Let our young people collaborate in technology and education, not just in sports and entertainment. Imagine a future where students from Accra and Kingston learn together in classrooms that teach African history from an African perspective. Imagine partnerships where African expertise helps develop Jamaican farming, and Jamaican innovators help build sustainable power solutions for the Sahel. This is not a fantasy. It is an obligation. We owe it to those who suffered the unimaginable, who crossed an ocean of agony so that we could have the chance to complete their journey. We owe it to the next generation, who deserve to inherit the pride of unity, not the shame of division. Jamaica, Africa is more than a destination. It is a homecoming waiting to happen in your collective consciousness. Together, we are not two separate places, but one people, one lineage, one fate. And the time to live as one is now. Let me speak plainly about what global powers hide behind diplomatic language. The West never truly departed from Africa. It merely changed its uniform. The flags of colonization were lowered, but their economic grip remained tight. And they did not just take our natural resources. They stole our self-belief, our conviction that we could manage our own affairs without their guidance. Their weapons are different now, not rifles, but contracts, not infantry, but international bodies. When financial institutions arrive with friendly smiles and documents to sign, they bring constraints, not liberation. They loan us money from the wealth they have extracted from us, and label it assistance. They tempt our leaders with privileges and split our populations with false narratives. In Jamaica, I observe the same strategy. The West applauds you with one voice and imposes conditions with the other. They instruct you to sell off national assets, to weaken the very pillars of your sovereignty in return for temporary fixes. They market visions of a modern life to you while your agriculture suffers and your best minds emigrate to find respect overseas. The same nations that demand Africa open its economies protect their own markets from us. The same voices that lecture us on democracy finance the instability that keeps us weak. You see, my family, modern colonialism does not wear a military badge. It wears a business suit. It operates in corporate meetings, not on fronts of war. And its objective is unchanged, to direct our future without the appearance of control. But our generation is not deceived. I have witnessed young Africans and young Jamaicans who are fully aware. The youth of our world no longer aspire to mimic the West. They are determined to shape their own definition of advancement. The real battle of our age is not fought with weapons, but with intellect. It is a conflict of perspectives, of stories. They want to persuade us that we are insignificant, that we require their guidance to exist. But the reality is, they rely on us far more than we rely on them. Africa provides sustenance for the globe, yet the globe allows Africa to hunger. The Caribbean gives its music to the world, yet the world muffles its message. Jamaica, you must not allow your self-determination to be negotiated away in complex agreements. No country that follows the tune of its former rulers will ever discover its own melody. I speak with resolve, not with fury. For every time Africa submits, the world becomes more unjust. And when we stand up, the very ground moves beneath their feet. The moment is here to see past the facade of cooperation and perceive the reality. Until Africa and her diaspora cease being customers of the West, genuine liberation will remain an unfulfilled promise. Jamaica, when I study your past, I see our own story. Not a story of separation, but of common endurance. You were ruled by the same power that once treated our forefathers as property. The bonds that constrained your nation were created in the same furnaces that scorched Africa. And though water lies between us, our pain shares the same sting. But you, like us, endure. You withstood an attempt to eliminate your identity. You created art that mended hearts globally, a faith that sustained hope where politics failed, and a culture that even empires could not extinguish. You transformed hardship into power. That is the African spirit, vibrant within you. Yet, I must be candid. The colonizer never gives up power voluntarily. Even now, their impact looms over your choices, your finances, your sense of self. They may not wear royal jewels anymore, but they still influence your economic policies. They may not carry lashes, but they still command the pathways of international finance and commerce. The West discovered long ago that you don't need to militarily occupy a population when you can own its tomorrow through financial obligations. In my nation, we witnessed the same blueprint. External forces directing us what to cultivate, what to extract, how to do business, and even how to perceive the world. And when we challenged this, they named us insurgents. But an individual who fights for his own homeland is not an insurgent. He is a faithful son defending his birthright. So I tell my Jamaican family this: you are not impoverished. You have been systematically deprived. Your territory, your work, your brilliance, all have been undervalued by those who are frightened of what occurs when you truly rise. They are afraid that one day, Kingston will speak the same language of truth as Ouagadougou, that we will refuse to auction our future for empty pledges. The international community tries to categorize us as developed and developing. But I ask you, what is development if it requires you to surrender your core identity? Is it true advancement when your prosperity primarily enriches another nation's economy? We have been told that freedom was bestowed upon us with independence. But independence without economic self-reliance is a symbol without substance. Jamaica, view Africa not as your origin point, but as your potential future. We are reconstructing our systems, our economic partnerships, and our self-respect without awaiting validation. You too can ascend beyond the structures that confine you. Let us construct pathways of commerce, of innovation, of learning. Let the youth of the Caribbean study African advancements, and the youth of Africa draw inspiration from Jamaican creativity. Because the day the descendants of Africa, whether in Lagos, Port-au-Prince, or Kingston, recognize they hold a common destiny, the existing world order will shake. We are one family, dispersed by history, but united by a growing awareness. And our moment has arrived to tell our story, not as those who were oppressed, but as the architects of a new era. The chains of the past are the materials for our future. My family, there is a hidden cost to aligning with the West. It does not present itself as charity, but as command. Every dollar that enters through their assistance programs creates a dependency that weighs twice as heavy. They provide loans in the daylight and collect a piece of your sovereignty by night. When a country embraces their so-called help, they call it growth. But what can truly grow when your resources are owned by outsiders and your economic plans are imported? The West extends credit with one hand and takes your autonomy with the other. They term it economic reform, but it is institutional confinement. They instruct Jamaica on how to budget, how to import and export, even how to envision its future. The international lenders will greet you warmly today and restrict your options tomorrow. And when you attempt to push back, they will portray you as unreliable, a risk, unappreciative. This is how they maintain nations in a diminished state, by persuading those in charge that compliance is intelligence and acquiescence is tact. When I declared that Africa must determine its own direction, they offered polite grins, but their quiet was more telling than any ovation. Why? Because they understand that a self-sufficient Africa means the end of their supremacy. They know that once Africa and the Caribbean realize their collective strength, the global system must shift toward fairness. Look at your own home, Jamaica. You produce incredible agricultural wealth, but you purchase processed goods from the West. You possess the land, the climate, and the coastline, but they control the shipping lanes, the intellectual property, and the global marketplaces. You supply the raw potential, they sell back the finished product. This is not fair exchange. This is exploitation dressed as collaboration. And they maintain the mechanism well-oiled. They no longer require force. They use influence. They make you believe that to be successful, you must adopt their accent, their fashion, their lifestyle. They sell you a mirage of parity. But true parity can never exist between the director and the directed. But now, I see an awakening. From the streets of Kingston to the avenues of Bamako, from Dar es Salaam to Port-au-Prince, our people are starting to understand that the West does not hold an exclusive claim to civilization. We are recalling that our ancestors constructed great societies when Europe was in a different era. We are not lesser. Our journey was simply disrupted. The world has instructed us for ages that compliance maintains order. But order without self-worth is merely a quiet form of bondage. And I tell you, the era of respectful quiet is finished. The time of asking for the right to be free has passed. If you wish to see what emancipation looks like, do not look to those who once colonized you. Look to those who defied them. For it is not disobedience to demand what is right. It is obedience to a higher truth. My family, the time has come to move beyond language, to unite not as different countries, but as one household, one spirit spread across the waters. The world is afraid of this unity because it knows our potential. They know that if the offspring of Africa and its descendants in the Caribbean, the Americas, and everywhere else stand together, no empire can withstand us. When I look at Jamaica, I do not see another state. I see a sibling we have long missed. I hear our rhythms in your music, our bravery in your words, our pulse in your communities. We are reflections of a single heart, parted by the sea, but fated to reunite. We have walked for too long under the symbols of our former enslavers. Now is the time to raise our own banner. A coalition of purpose, built not on ethnicity alone, but on the common goal of true liberation. A network that connects African nations with the Caribbean and its global family. Commerce between our communities, innovation from our next generation, security through mutual support, and a culture that restores our true identity. This is the Africa we are destined to build. The West formed alliances to command the planet. They established pacts to control, funds to discipline, and banks to dictate. But where is our coalition? The alliance of the resilient, the imaginative, the unbroken. Why must we plead for a place in their chambers when we can construct our own gathering place under the African sky? In my capital, I envision a gathering where Jamaica and Ghana meet as peers, where the islands and the mainland have an equal say, one voice, not in subordination, but in full sovereignty. We do not need their consent to support one another. We only need the will to move forward. They have split us with documents, with boundaries, with dialects. Yet our blood still hums the same ancient song. I proclaim this. Let us forge a new reality where a child of the diaspora can feel at home in Accra, where a young person from Nigeria can learn in a Jamaican university, where our creators, our pioneers, and our philosophers build a shared tomorrow without needing the endorsement of former colonizers. For too long, we have waited for the world to acknowledge us. Now we must acknowledge ourselves. The vision of our elders was not just a prediction. It was a blueprint. The Pan-African dream is not a longing for the past. It is an urgent requirement. Let us form a new pact, not just among governments, but between the hearts of our people. A pact that converts our suffering into drive, our history into ambition. Because when Africa and her children unite, the old chains of the world begin to corrode. And to my family in Jamaica, I say, do not wait for others to take the first step. Stand up, join hands with us, and together we will not merely edit history. We will become its authors. If this message resonates with you, please support this channel by liking this video and subscribing to Winds of Thought for more truths that need to be heard.